All right, what's going on, everybody? So today is a very special video, and so it's another episode of Veteran Talk. We have Command Sergeant Major Gabriel Camacho, who also just so happens to be my uncle, and so there's all his resume goes long, and so if I were to say it, it would probably take a. I don't think we had enough time. But Uncle Gabe, if you want to get into what your background is and have your proper introduction.
Right on. Yeah. Well, first off, let me start, Brent, about really just sharing a quick anecdote, a quick story. So, SEAC John Troxel said it best last year during a Non-Commissioned Officer Association conference held down here in San Antonio. He basically said there's two types of veterans, right? There are those that do and those that don't. That continuation of service, to help others, something that we did, while in uniform, that selflessness. That's one of the two options you get to do already. I want to thank you for actually doing what you're doing right now, because the power of the conversation cannot be we can never underestimate that, number one. And really, for us to have these conversations as well as the others that you've had already and the many more I'm hoping to come, it's actually going to help others along the way. So thank you for your continued service as a veteran as you continue your transition. So, quick background on me. Yes, I'm actually a combat medic. Was my craft of 22 years in the United States Army, culminated as an E9. As a command sergeant major for uh, what used to be known primarily as the Warrior Transition Battalion, now the Soldier Recovery Unit. And all that is, that's a military talk for a unit that takes care of the nation's wounded, injured, and ill, right? So whether you were injured in combat, you came to my unit, you came to, or I should say, you were preparing for combat, got injured during a training exercise. You came to my unit. You came down with an illness that needed attention 6 months or longer, be it cancer, some sort of a blood disease, etc. You came to my unit. And so a big part of that, you're either going to return back to the force or transition out successfully as a veteran. So appreciate you actually giving me a shout out to actually jump on. I'm excited to share what I got. Closing the 22 years, the last chapter that I had, it definitely helped me. I know that for a fact. And much like you, I continue to serve, continue to help out in little ways, what I consider little ways, but as much as possible when I see veterans who need help. Yeah, not just the friends that I have or the family that I have that are transitioning out, but really anybody that I see. And so that's pretty much me.
No, that's, I mean, I know you can go days talking about everything you've accomplished. I know you're being humble, but uh yeah, I mean, you hit on a good point with the whole trying to, for me, getting out. I thought like once I was out, I was going to be out and my brain was just going to be kind of moving on to do other things. But in reality, what ended up happening was that like I just, I grew up on, I was just going to Anderson Air Force Base, at 1, 2, 3 years old. And I'm always surrounded by military members, families, right? Everybody's in the military. And I'm just like, okay, I think somewhere down the line, it just got instilled in me that now, like, I'm okay, I just can't shake this. And now I have to figure out some other way to kind of like, if I'm not going to continue being active duty, if I'm not going to continue serving on that level, I feel like I still have to be I need to incorporate it in my life somehow. And this is the way you're doing it and the way I'm doing it. It's like we're still finding ways to continue doing what we're doing, but just in a different capacity. And so, I mean, that's great. And that's a good way that you put it. And so what I kind of wanted to get into, and I mean, we could talk for days, right? But we only have so much time. But the video, and so with your transition, I mean, yeah, you were in for 22 years, you said,
Correct.
and
Yep.
so the 22 years, I mean, geez, you going from 20 years to 22 years, and then now you have to pull the trigger and make a decision that, okay, I have to get it. I mean, it was your decision that you decided to get out, right? You could have extended if you
Correct.
wanted to. And so
Absolutely.
it was time for you to go ahead and pull the trigger. You did more than enough time. and you did a lot. But what did that in your brain feel like for you? And then how did you mentally prepare yourself to make that transition and be like, okay, I'm here at the tip of the spear. Now I'm going back to being a civilian, and Joe Schmo can care less what rank I was and all these things, and I have to go from this world to this world and all these things. How did you mentally prepare for that?
That's perfect. That's probably the one of the best questions you continue to ask, because it's that old cliche, right? When it's time, you'll know. That's what all the old timers say, and that's
Yeah.
what all the new generation, the ones that served for and done,
Yeah.
everybody kind of same thing. Whether it's, oh, it's not fun anymore, or it's a family situation, that makes you decide to get out. When it's time, you'll know. And so that was probably for me, it was definitely family that drove that decision. And I feel like I cheated, because my last assignment, that was the blueprint for transitioning out, taking care of the nation's wounded, injured, and ill. I basically got to shadow and then partake in different services that were available to my service members and their families, and actually try them out. So understanding that, whoa, you do need a plan first. Make sure that you have a plan, and then after you do some solid goal setting 101, with the SMART methodology, specific, measurable, attainable, reachable, time
Yeah.
based.
Yeah.
We need to take that and then take it to the next level, and really start your relationship building, and go around and make sure that you use the assets, the resources that are available, to make sure that that transition successful. Yeah. So I, again, because I got my, again, reason to retire. It was, I would argue that I had less anxiety than most do, just because I was there shoulder to shoulder with a lot of service members and their families, watching them and guiding them go through it. So I knew that I knew I could do it. Just by that alone.
No, yeah. I mean, it's hard to especially when I speak to people who have done 20 plus years, because after I feel like after every reenlistment, you're basically a different person. You're literally, you just I don't know, you're it's more in your blood. The longer you kind of invest your time and your family's time and everything, and so like it's way
For
different for
sure.
someone like me who's been in for 6 years, who,
True.
I mean,
Right.
I was married, but I, was divorced, and then, had a relationship, but then, or have a relationship, but then that was not integrated into my career. Your family situation is basically integrated in your career, and so these decisions and everything that you kind of went through kind of hit a lot harder, right?
Oh yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that is what I really am learning, as I'm also being able to, because me being able to dig into the brains of people who are liking yourself allows me to be able to help them as well as the people that were in my shoes, right? And so, or did lesser time than I did too, right? Because you have like 2 4 years. And so, anyways, you so you decided to, once you were out, to go ahead and where did the whole ROTC thing come into play? Like, how did that arise?
So that's a legit question. I'm I think I need to share kind of what my transition map is, that I
Yeah.
used to help friends, families, and really just coach anybody, because it
Okay.
applies for any career change, right? So from the networks, resources that I've had, and then really just the experiences that I had with my service members and their families. I teach transition prep, and you know how the military goes. We operate off of acronyms and abbreviations, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
No. Yeah.
yeah, prep is the reason why I came up with prep, just to to kind of make it stick, in terms of context that everybody can comprehend, understand. So the first one, prep, PREP, first one is plan. You have to transition with a plan. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before we got started, but a plan is it's never just one, when it comes to the military. In order for us to achieve the end state that we want on a mission, we always operate off of three, right? Course of action one, two, and three. And let's convert that to civilian talk. So you got to have plan A, plan B, or plan C. So if you don't have a minimum of at least plan A or plan B, you're probably not going to get the outcome. You're not going to get the transition goals. Hit them like you want to. So that's super important. And I gotta touch up on kind of what that really means, because it's important to recognize that everybody's transition is going to be different.
Yeah.
Everybody's at a different place in their lives, and really everybody's needs are different. So that plan just always is going to revolve about the two things, right? That TAP teaches us. It's either purpose or income, right? That you're looking at to transition out. That's going to shape. Uh, you can on the purpose side, can you get out and go out and do something that you want to do? What makes you tick? What makes you get up out of bed, every day? What makes you happy? And that, whether it's how you trade your time for money, that's on you. Whether it's, business for yourself or actually working as an employee for, someone else. But those are the two things that you got to look at, finding something that you want to do, purpose side, what makes you happy. And then parallel to that, well, how much money do I need to make to get the lifestyle that I need for my family or want, right? For myself or for my family. And then
No.
that
Yeah.
medium is what you need to look at, right? That's going to help you shape what's A, B, and C. What's plan A, B, and C? Is there a happy medium in the middle? And for me, it was in fact out of the three course of action plans that I had, JRTC was actually my third one, and I ended up I ended up going with the third plan. The two that I had originally, they were contracting jobs, and they kind of changed towards the end of my, or I should say, as I got closer to retirement. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
those opportunities ended up changing for me. I knew that for my family decision to get out, I knew that I needed to get out, and what I needed more was more time at home. And financially, I was going to be okay, with a disability rating, with retirement. I could continuously work transition to different opportunities if needed. But the reality is, I was in a good space. I was in a good I was in a good point in my life where I could pursue what made me happy or what gave me good purpose. So, and me, I gotta throw a throw my biggest compass. I definitely turned to God. I had to pray about this one, and this the JRTC opportunity is honestly ended up what's surfacing above everything. So after 22 years, I recognize that people are my business. I'd like to argue that I have a doctorate. That's my degree. My degree's in people and taking care of them and their families. I
That's
still
awesome.
believe and choose to act as more of a servant than anything. I still
Yeah.
think that I'm a pretty good servant. And although I have technical skill sets, behind my the couple degrees that I have, and then my experiences, I wanted to stay within that area. And so JRTC learned about it, knew that was in fact just a follow-on mission of being a servant, still taking care of sons and daughters of America, just at a younger demographic,
Mm-hmm.
and probably the hardest demographic, to be honest with you. They're not service members. You have to remember they're just young adults, right? But
No, yeah.
that made it exciting as a challenge. And then with the small income, let's never forget, right? Teachers don't make nothing. We highly underpaid, and you have to think about it from this perspective. Nana told me this one, yeah, yeah, it was just, man, mind blowing. Being an educator, being a teacher, is the profession to all other professions. As in, no kidding, as you go to school, you get educated to go uh, find other careers and other opportunities, other professions. That's where it all comes from. And it's just amazing how we don't pay more, or I should say, invest more into our teachers. It's kind of wild when you look at it from that perspective. So that's really how JRTC came about. Yeah, because of that piece. Is it all right if I come down to the rest now? So I did the P part, the RE.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. This is great. This is a lot of valuable information.
All right. So really the remaining, right, those the abbreviations, the R is super important because you have to have a plan first, but the next thing that you need to make sure that you're locked in on is the relationships. And you learned real quick the relationships matter, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
the hard decision to even join the military was hard enough, but going through basic, you really didn't know what to expect. That was probably one of the most life changing experiences, right? Because you hear all these different horror stories from where you're at, how you deal with stress, anxiety. You just don't know if you're going to make it or not. But man, you in your case, you had some good airmen to your right that you just
Mm.
made long lasting relationships, with that helped you push that. So the
Yeah.
gospel truth is really you're always going to have limits as an individual, right? But to push past those limits, it can only be done, man, with the folks to your left and right. So that's how you get to next level, and that's what makes the military so special. We learn real quick just how important it is to have those relationships, and so much like you've had in the cloth wearing the uniform, relationships matter just as much as you're transitioning out and staying out. Kind of what you're doing right now. I'll go back to the my opening comments about continuation of service. And so the relationships is big because, as you've discovered too, right? As you apply for different jobs, um, it's about opportunity. And 90% of the time, maybe 99 or 100% of the time, 99% of the time, the only way for you to ever know about those opportunities is from someone else to kind of tell you. Yeah, whether it's trying to pursue a job in government service or even a opportunity in corporate America, it takes knowing somebody to tell you about that opportunity. And again, something we sleep on and in life, it's not just in the military. We first meet people, right? But it's never in person, right? Face to face. We first meet people through reputation, right?
Mhm.
And that's how they, hey, you know what, man, I remember Brent, he was good in finance while we were stationed in Guam. I'm transitioned out. I got this, corporate gig that's, opening up. I'm going to call him. Hey, Brent, not sure what you're doing, but man, I'm over here in Arizona. This opportunity just opened up. Are you down? I know I can vouch for you. I know your work ethic, blah, 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 blah. Right. So yeah, again, can't sleep on relationships. Super important. The other part to that is, again, it's just a good reminder that you're not alone, through anything you do in life. But there's resources that are out there to help you. This transition or transitioning will never be something that you should ever feel isolated or alone. There's just too many agencies that are out there. There's too many resources that are out there. There's too many people out there that want to make sure you're successful. So moving on down because I can talk forever. Yeah, effort.
No, this is
Yeah,
great.
yeah, so effort's huge, right? Because I mean, it's like I tell my cadets, man, I don't need you to win. I don't, the only thing I need is a big E. I need big effort. I need you to give me your best. I need you to empty the tank and give me all you got, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's competitions, whether it's in class, it don't matter. You need to put forth the effort in transitioning in order for it to happen, because it's not going to happen, just magically. Yeah,
Yeah.
we call that hope, right? And hope is not a plan. That cliche
Yeah.
is real. Yeah, so it's something that you need to put forth the effort and work at. And
No,
really,
nobody
the
actually
last
helps themselves.
yeah, the last thing is honestly persistence. You're gonna have so many doors that will open up and then close, and you can't get discouraged. You just got to keep after it, right? Until you get the opportunity that you want. It's so hard to to stay up on the positive when you throw out an application for two or three different positions, you do interviews, and they go another way with someone else, right?
Yeah.
It's too easy to get discouraged. Man, you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving, and that's really how you get after it, right? That's the work ethic that was instilled in us. If you didn't have it, before the military brings that out, and in all of us. And so that's something that I don't know why we think we have to downshift and be lazy, and or I should say, be. I'm just calling it a spade.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
called
spade a spade.
yeah, man. In other words, you got to continue to get after it until you get what you want, until you hit them goals, right? That's
Yeah.
it.
No,
And
I
so
live by that.
trying to keep
Yeah.
that, that's honestly that's my big overview for transition. It's prep. Yeah, make sure you plan. Yeah, relationships, they're super important. Yeah, don't lose them. Continue to build them and maintain them. Yeah, effort, get some big effort going, and then persistence, man. Don't get down when things, when things turn sour. Yeah, keep pushing through, keep pushing until you get it. That's
No.
what we did in the service. I don't know why we have to stop doing that.
No, that's a lot of great advice. I mean, persistence, I mean, relationships, I mean, effort, all that stuff is just it's stuff I continually try to improve and work on every single day, and it's a lot harder. You have less of I guess because you're not maybe necessarily around it as much. If you're not in the military, it's you're kind of isolated, and you are having to now. For me, I'm just talking my own personal experiences, and I'm having to pull it out of me and like call myself on my BS or yeah, in order for me to do some self motivation, which is pretty often, I have to be kind of derogatory to myself, and and I kind of say derogatory things to myself, but it gets me going, And I'm like, what are
Yeah,
you? And so it's things like that, and in the relationships thing, it's that one is it's so important, and I think I didn't realize how like they always talked about I worked finance and so I would, out process. I don't know how many people I've out processed like throughout the 6 years, but like people who were getting out or separating or retiring. And a lot of times people retiring were always telling you the advice, some of the advice that you're giving me, but like basically talking about make sure you're building relationships, make sure you're networking, right? Make sure you're connected. And they give you all these resources, all these things. I'm like, why do I need a network if I'm gonna do this or do that, right? And it's like, oh no, it's pretty important. I as you know, I do financial planning now, and so I go into these conferences and I go to these networking events, and that's literally all they do is like they'll talk about what they have to provide. Here's what I have to provide, and then how can we make something happen here? And then that's literally what it is. And then you talking about keeping those relationships that you build in the military and then keeping that post your career because you never know what can happen and all these things. It's like I literally just had that like go on in the last few weeks. Like I was reaching out to people that I knew from my past and that was in the service. At the last few videos that I did interviews with. I mean, they were just people that I knew because I was in the military and I think we crossed paths and now I remember them and I thought it'd be beneficial to pick their brain. And so, I mean, literally, the relationships, I think, is one of the most important things that you should, if you're not good at, work on
that's
it,
a story.
because you can
True
never get
story.
you can never get anywhere without people, and people can never get. You might have you need to have something to provide as well. You need to, as they say, scratch your back and I'll scratch you or whatever. You scratch each other's backs, right? And so it's like that's so true. I mean, why do people become friends? It's like they're friends because some at some capacity they can do one person can rely on the other person for something else and vice versa, right? And so anyways, not to get into that full tangent, but no, that's really good advice. And so you wanted to, so you got into the ROTC thing. I mean, you had your own situation with the family. You did your, I mean, it was time for you to get out, and but you still wanted to serve to some capacity. You said you're pretty much you like to see yourself as a servant and all these things. What, as far as your own aspirations, your own goals, other than your, I mean, obviously you're a devout servant and to other people and people that are trying to build their own lives and careers. What else were you thinking about doing something else at the time when you were transitioning, or were you just kind of like, you know what, this is it, like this is all I my heart set here? Do you have a plan maybe 10 years from now when you're, I mean, you're really young still, right? It's like when you're, you
Yeah.
know.
So I think that's the big thing. So for me, I got to learn this pretty young, and I guess that was my biggest thing. This in Guam, you grow up fast. You grow
Yeah.
up fast, and so I just knew that overall, my long term goal is always the same. It's really in life, my priorities is always my God, my family, my friends, and my work. And so so long as I keep that again priority in that order, that gives me the balance that I need. So I don't necessarily need to be doing something specific. What I do need to make sure that I'm doing is, man, making sure I have a strong relationship with God, making sure that my family is taken care of. I continue to build them, and yeah, it makes me laugh on how other cultures. You see it a lot with other cultures. They're like, "Oh, 18 years old. Okay, you're out of the house. You're done." No, you're a parent for life, right? And then
Yeah.
God willing, you can hit that next level and become, a grandparent. Yeah,
Yeah.
badass grandparent, badass grandpa right here is the right now. But
That's so
yeah,
that's so crazy because you're, I mean, you are a grandpa, right?
that's
Which
right.
is, that's awesome. So you get
Yeah,
you have you're wearing many hats, as they say, and it's like you're doing all the things you're talking about, right? It's like you have your,
that's right.
I mean, you're obviously very strong in the faith, but you're also your family is obviously most important to you. And then it really sounds like what you're, if I was to like give it one word, it's like its value, maybe like your values, or
Hmm.
it sounds like it's what you most value is what's important to you, and so those three things are the things you most value, right? And so
Yeah,
that's
and
very
I think
interesting.
that's where people kind of fall off because you got to have life goals. It's never just about a career or a opportunity. So I told you that I do asset management too, and that's probably the biggest thing. It is, in fact, the simple question: ask yourself, if you didn't have to work anymore, what would that look like? What kind of life would you want?
Yeah.
Right? What would that look like? And that's really where I look at the piece there for, again, purpose and income. After you know exactly what life goals you have, the career will fall in under that, right? That's how you select a career because it's not enough to just jump out and do something. I don't know about you, but that's super foolish, man, to want to work for the rest of your life. Yeah, so the 10-year plan, you know what I mean, to stop having to work is really you know could be your goal, could be my goal, but that should be reality. It should be going beyond. Your part of transition should actually factor into the bigger plan in life is probably what's most important. Yeah, and really, again, it's always going to be different for everyone. I know for a fact in JRTC I don't make big money, but I get so much more time home um, doing this, than I've ever had. It's ridiculous. It's almost, I feel criminal, having the weeks off, for spring break, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas break, having the summer off. It's ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had about I totaled. It looks like I'm over 70 days of paid time off for this school year. You know what? It'll finally end. Who does that, right? And then, and then on top of that, out of the classrooms, as they graduate, pushing these young adults to understand that the opportunities in life come by way of that ticket, right? You need to get your high school diploma, your high school transcript, and then you jump out, and then you have a better opportunity to do something, whether it's workforce, higher education, and college. or going and joining the military, you need that high school diploma to actually go out and pursue bigger and better things, right? In one of those three areas. And so I recognize and know that my kids, as they graduate, my cadets, my young adults, they're either, some of them, not all of them, some of them will be, very influential and be successful in the military, right? Something that's obviously near and dear to both of us, right? As we're in the porch, the back porch, throwing back a few and working the barbecue, 10, 20 years from now, I know that, our nation's in good hands because one of my, cadets is out there doing good things, to make sure that our nation's defended. And the same could be said for any one of them that, may join, that go to college or the workforce, be it, somebody going in to be the next mayor or, a top official for Customs Border Patrol. It don't matter. I get fulfillment knowing that that's exactly what I'm doing. And so, again, it was a good gig. And I think it's important to recognize that too, because most people don't realize that life is yours, right? You need to make sure that you pursue a lifestyle that you want, and that's where the career comes in. Whether it's working for yourself, working for someone else, the career needs to be a part of that to get to that goal. So remember the P part, right? The planning part. Yeah, it's got to all be part of the plan. And you need to recognize that change is inevitable. At some point, something's going to happen where I may have to get out of JRTC, and then I'm going to have to, again, transition prep all over. I'm going to have to look at that. So has my goal changed? I actually do this every year in December. I'm a nerd. That's how I live my life. Yeah, I do my self reflection. I do my asthma check, my compass check every December, every year. And I just make sure that, I'm still after the same goals. Things that didn't work, I need to adjust and go after it, in a different way. And that's the best part about life. That's living, because we know that tomorrow's not promised. So yeah, you better make every second of every minute, of every day that you have here on this earth, make it count. Make it
Yeah.
count. Don't waste doing something that you don't want to do. Yeah.
Oh, I love all that. Yeah, I mean, I like to think of myself as an undercover nerd. Like
Yeah.
I do the same thing every year. Like I'll do. I mean, I keep journals and planners, things I have to write down. I'm like remind myself. I have a dream board. It's like there's things that you need to have a plan. I mean, and I mean, people. It's kind of a word that's a little beat up, and it's like, what is that exactly, right? And you talked about, you get do this thing to get to this thing. It's life setup, right? It's like having the dominoes lined up, and if they're not lined up accordingly, then if it won't knock over correctly, right? It just won't go the way you want it to go, and it's like, okay, so what is it that I need to do in order to do that? In your case, I mean, you did a successful career in the military, obviously, and then you're moving on, and now you have this cushion, and now you can kind of take options of what you want to do. And we kind of spoke about this a little earlier, but like that's the rough part about people who don't retire. In my case, right, I did 6 years, so it really determined on like, yeah, I get my GI Bill, and yeah, I can go to school for free. That's an awesome benefit. I mean, that's a lot, right? And I get money for going to school, and but if you don't have a safety net, if you don't have money set aside, or if you didn't finish enough certifications or classes while you were in, then you're kind of not setting yourself up right, if that makes sense, right? Like you're
Yeah.
I got my associates when I was in, but I didn't get my bachelor's. If I got my bachelor's, then I don't know. My trajectory is a little different because my options was always kind of stayed the same. But like and most people, it's like if you don't have your bachelor's, every place that I look for jobs says minimum requirement bachelor's, and then everything else right on top of it. And it's like good
That's right.
luck. A lot of people expect to get paid. I'd like to think every generation likes to say like, oh, you should have seen my day, right? Like I used to talk to when I first got in, a lot of the people who were, chiefs and stuff like that at the time would like talk to me and be like, you get paid how much? It's like, you should have seen when my day when I got, I got $200, and that was to last me the entire month or something. And they like people, especially doing the 4 years, 6 years, maybe even 10. It doesn't matter. But like they didn't retire, they stayed in. They expect to get paid the same or similar, but they don't have any real transferable skills or credentials or things like that. And that's happened to a lot of people that I know. And I kind of felt that too, right? I mean, I did finance, but it wasn't going to get me paid as much as I was in the military, sadly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you get all
Yeah.
your basic allowances and you get all your tax free benefits and entitlements, and so you don't get all those things when in the military. And so that planning portion, it's like be realistic with your planning. If you really want to, become a financial advisor, like kind of similar to something to what I'm doing, or if you want to do something that's like that requires all these minimum qualifications, it's like get that done before you get out. And
Yeah.
especially if you don't have the cushion of whatever, if you don't have the if you didn't have, or I'm kind of going in circles here, but it's like you don't if you don't have your nest egg, build that nest egg. If you don't have your nest egg, your best bet is to make sure that you have all your qualifications and stuff, so that even if you don't have that nest egg, you can still transfer and land a good job, and so you can still have an opportunity to build that nest egg. Because some people, they just get out and I don't have anything going on. I don't have any money. I don't have anything to like sort of like, and it's like no wonder why you don't have any opportunities. It's like you didn't do anything.
You didn't plan, right? For it. You didn't plan for your transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a good point. I mean, that's a great point. I would like to just kind of like keep pulling golden nuggets from you because I know you have a lot to offer, but your uh man, so because was there times in your 20 years, 22 years where you were just like, I'm ready, I'm gonna get out, I'm kind of done, or it was like ever since you just kind of knew, okay, I'm staying in, this is what I'm doing, I'm gonna spend a quarter of my possible years of life, right? Basically, right? That's 20 almost 25 years of you just being like, this is what I'm going to do. Is that something you just knew early on, or was it like, what, after year 15, you thought, what, I think I'm just going to stay, or how was your process and thinking about that, all that stuff?
Yeah. That's a question that's always posed, man. That's a fair question that a lot of again, what were my peers, or I guess my peers now too, E9s that got out. I've always had an opportunity to speak, and that's always a question that comes up. I, much like a good majority of other E9s, not I'm speaking across all forces, Army, Air Force, Navy. It was never a plan to just go 20. Rarely does that ever happen where this is my goal. I'm going to do 20 years in the military. I'm going to make E9, or I'm going to make, 09. um, that doesn't always happen. It's kind of a rare thing. And much like everybody else, mine was just in chunks. I just planned on doing 4 years. I wanted to join the army to get off the island,
Yeah.
deal with some things going on. I lost, my brother during the year I graduated. I was pretty angry about that. Ended up, getting my girlfriend at the time was, wow, my girlfriend now of 26 years. And it'll soon be my wife. Next month, she'll be my wife of 24, is what she'll
Uh,
be. But we ended up getting pregnant, had a baby, got married. And I just looked at the army as the right way to just get out, do something different, get off the island, and do something better. Is
yeah.
what I wanted to do. I did 4 years, and super naive. Again, I'm just going to join the army. I'm in the army. I want to go to war, get my combat patch, get my CMB, and I'm good to go. I definitely got that and then some, because literally within my first 4 years, I was a part of a OIF-1, Operation Iraqi Freedom, senior line
Wow.
medic, infantry unit. Yeah, was super busy there, and didn't think that I was going to end up re-enlisting. There was no options at the time other than to just stay in the unit and redeploy, go back to Iraq in a year. And it was pretty tough because we had our second kid. We had our second kid while I was deployed during
Yeah.
OIF. So that made it hard in the family. So just by that alone, my wife didn't want to go through deal with any of that, anymore. And so the decision was actually to get out. And then, and really the day before, I was supposed to finally out, separate from the army.
Hmm.
A career branch manager came down and, hey, can send you to Germany. Looked at the boss, looked at the wife, said yes.
Actually, yeah.
So I said, okay. And then that turned into another, after four chunks, of service, that turned into another three chunks. Towards the
Wow.
tail end of Germany, I actually I was diagnosed with cancer. And
Oh
so
yeah, I remember
it was a
that.
no, yeah, it was a no brainer. I need to stick around for a little bit to finish treatment. So ended up going to Hawaii to get treatment. Well, I'm honestly, uh, I'm, I'm actually better, feeling okay. I kind of want to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
If this did happen from deployment, and really, if it's this is something that I needed to prove to know that I'm okay, I want to deploy again. And if
Yeah.
I can deploy, I'll know personally that I'm actually I'm all right, physically, mentally, and then I'll be done. Then I can walk away. So and re-enlisted to stay a little bit longer, only to get to another deployment. Moved
Mm.
to back to Colorado only to deploy, and then while I was there, during deployment, I had to make a decision because by then I was going to hit my what's called indefinite status mark, and
Yeah.
that's where I had to decide. Okay, once I do this, this is going to be at 11 years. It's going to push me to basically stay in for 20. I'm not going to have any other reenlistment armies. I'm just a term soldier is what it's going to be. And so I went ahead and pulled the trigger on that with some other things that that were in place. Ended up doing another deployment along the way, and then really again culminating the career at 22 years as an E9.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
Well, that's
that was the story. I do got to shed some light, share some bigger chunks, or I should say, bigger nuggets
yeah.
from career. Is really when I started as a young, private, as a young E3, I was already told by my leadership, you need to have a degree. Start going to
Yeah.
school. Go have a. And I was like, why? You need to have a degree just in case you break your leg or something happens to you, you get into a car accident, you get out of the army, you have something to fall back on. So go to school. And so, like the good soldier I was like, okay, Sergeant.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah. So brother recognized and realized that that was important. Come to find out, not only was it good as a backup plan, just in case, but I ended up, jumping into the good era there where you needed to have a degree in order to move up. As we
Yeah.
both know, the military is an up or out, profession, and rightfully so. We need to make sure that if you don't move up, you got to move out, and that's only because what we do is serious business. Yeah, and when we don't have the best leaders, in our military, well, when lives are on the line, that's something that we can't take for granted and just have poor leadership, front of. So education turned into a promotion requirement, which was good because again, it just made me more competitive. So
Yeah.
back, really last year, I mean, I had my bachelor's and masters knocked out already,
Yeah.
and I was kind of forced to do that, just to, in order to move,
Advance.
yeah, in order to move up, I needed to have a degree. It shows that you're a lifelong learner, right? That you don't settle is
Yeah.
what that's at least that's that's the strategic thought. That's why it's important. And then to have some extra skill sets, that are tied to each degree that you got. Yeah, got a couple of certifications too along the way, and so I was always prepared to transition because of that. Like, man, if something again something happens, I could use my papers to get me by until I found something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I could always find work. Really, what it comes down to, and you said something before we even started, and that was the big one. It's okay to extend and stay in longer just to make sure you're ready to transition, just to
Yeah.
make sure you're ready to get out. That's super important because if you're not planning, or I should say, if you're planning to do something that you want and you don't have those certifications, every branch of service in the Department of Defense has no issues with keeping you around, so long as you're not a dirtbag, right? That's a
Yeah, dirtbag airmen, dirtbags. I guess it's the
yeah,
same
sorry,
across the board.
yeah. But I mean, you'll have that opportunity. So man, grind for another 2 years till you get the certs that you want,
Yeah,
right? Whether it's for warfare, whether it's shrum or freaking PMP, project management principles, Series 65, whatever the
yeah,
case is, you do it at the military's dime, mind you, right? You get certification assistance
yeah,
program, you got free
yeah.
yeah,
I think
tuition.
you guys have Army Cool, right? It's kind of similar to Air Force Cool,
That's
right?
exactly cool across the services.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of people don't even realize like those resources that helps you transition. It's the skill bridge program, which is
That's
relatively
right.
new. Is there's the tuition assistance, which I'm assuming you use along with some scholarships or something. No,
All day, all day.
all day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so tuition, yeah, tuition assistance, scholarships. I mean, there's so many things you don't have to. I mean, the military will literally. My point of view is, with especially when it comes to using certain resources in the military that allows you to do things like pay for school or certifications that you need or opportunities that are not necessarily your mission related. They're not necessarily so obvious and in your face. A lot of times it's kind of like you have to go out and find it and you have to look for
Yeah,
it or else you just never knew it existed. And that's at least that was
that's
my personal experience. And it's like, oh, they do this thing. I should have known about this freaking 2 years ago. Why didn't I find or whatever? And so I found that like, oh, you have to like do your research, watch a video like this, or go and Google it. It's like it's there.
that's
Sometimes it's hidden in paragraphs, and maybe you don't necessarily want to read all that, but it's there, and it's like take advantage of it because I always say the military is going to use you for as much as you can put into it. It's like get as much as you can get out of it
story.
as well, right?
Yeah, story.
It's true. I mean, it builds great work ethic. I mean, I wouldn't be the same person. I mean, just growing up on Guam and doing those things anyways makes you have good work ethic. But the military, just as simple as basic training, right? It's like there's a different. It taps into something that's different in you or something, in my opinion. And it's like it makes you. It's like, oh, you didn't know you could work 15 whatever hours and barely get any sleep and then still come back and deal with there's nothing like being like a junior enlisted.
The grind.
Yeah, and just just eating crud, right, for just dealing with people, and certain people are a little worse than that, and we can get into that later, but it's it builds character is the sense, right? And so it's like I wouldn't be the same way. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it's so true though. That's another, I guess, benefit that you get from the military that's not necessarily tuition assistance or something like that. It's those indirect benefits
Experience.
I get,
That's right.
characteristics and stuff. Yeah.
That's and that's the better part because they translate very well to corporate America. There's a lot of again, veteran owned organizations or private companies or state companies. They know what veterans bring. Everything you just kind of talked about, that's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody that they don't have to write a performance plan on because they can't show up to work on time,
Yeah.
or make it to a meeting. Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of deal. Yeah,
You just brought up a good thing. So I just had this experience when I was at this internship, right? The skill bridge program that I was at. And
yeah,
I didn't realize how much stuff. And for those who don't know, the skill bridge program allows you up to 180 days of working with the DoD sponsored company, or you get paid as your active duty, but you're technically on this permissive TDY schedule in which you can just kind of lead you into your data separation or data retirement in conjunction with like terminal leave and stuff like that. And so that's what I did. And so my
nailed it.
experience my experience going through that was intense because I was slowly adjusting out, and I needed to. I didn't realize the acclimating, I guess, in terms of like dealing with people who are not military, right? Dealing with older gentlemen who were not, E9s or commanders, right? There's like, oh, you look like you could be a commander, but you're not, and you don't know anything about this. It's like you're having to shift your outlook and stuff like that. So, anyways, my boss at the time, older gentleman, and I was doing things like, "How are you doing, sir?" I would knock before I get into his office, kind of stuff, and he came to my if I was working, I was the operations manager. I would stand up at my desk if he was coming up, and I would talk to him, and subconsciously, I don't know why, but I would almost be like at parade rest and all these things. And so, and he was like, "Why are you doing all that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's the military, isn't it?" And I'm like, "I guess." He's like, "Don't do it." He's like, it made him uncomfortable. And it's like, "Don't call me sir either." It's like, "Sir is my dad." It's all these things. And I'm like, "Just call me by my first name and whatever." And then I'm like, this stuff, I mean, they appreciate it. I noticed that I got a lot of respect for the kind of stuff I was doing, but there's also that fine line where it's like, don't go too military on them. Sometimes the environment doesn't require that, or it's not appreciated. And so, in the environment that I was at, it wasn't necessarily appreciated, but it was respected. That was a different thing, right? It's like, I get what you're doing. I respect it, but it's like, here, that's not needed. Don't have to do that here. But let them tell you that. Don't go there with the kind of, you know, the way you already are from how you were in the military. Let them tell you that you don't need to do that, because either you're gonna leave a good taste in their mouth either way. So that was my experience. And I don't know if you experienced that when you, I mean, you did ROTC, so I don't know, but I don't know if it's any different.
Oh yeah, that's a drastic change, but it goes back. See, again, I was fortunate. As I continued to progress, it got drilled and instilled in me. Man, to be an effective communicator, you need to make sure you know your audience. So I recognize
Yes.
as and to go into ROTC, there's the P word again. Brother knew I couldn't jump back, again, using my strategic terminology, or military jargon for that matter. And then on top of that, really being direct, with the audience that I was dealing with, for my students specifically, I had to adjust. So, I had to again study up. So what are my teenagers, the age group that they're looking at, jumped on TikTok, ask my kids, so
Really?
what's the jargon? So what's the T on how to communicate now, right? Got that
Ah,
down. And then just to keep it clean, from cursing, which is still acceptable in different cultures within the military. I needed to make sure that was out of vocabulary, and so I made sure that I did my emphasis, my anecdotes. Everything came off of either Disney cartoons or anime. So I had to level. Yeah, I had to
wow.
level up, that aspect to prepare for that. Exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
planned.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
planned, and you had to jump from one world. It's almost like you ever watched the movie Pacifier when Vin Diesel. He goes from being like this like top
right.
dog agent, and then he goes and now he has to babysit, and he's like, I have no connection to any of you guys, but this is what
Mhm.
I'm doing now. And it's like, I imagine, and I kind of wanted to touch on, I think I asked you something similar earlier, but like you taking off, because how long were you the command sergeant major over there at Fort Sam?
So I was actually the command sergeant major there for 3 years. Yeah,
3 years is a long time, right?
it
And so like you being command sergeant major, I mean, you have a different hat, right? Your hat has kind of like, it's almost like the Pope's hat. You're like there, and then you going from that, adjusting to now doing, I mean, you probably didn't have to do too much adjusting because you just knew the kind of the role that you had to do and being the part of that. But taking off that hat and then going to this now, being in a classroom and having a different hat, you have to like almost I don't know if you do have to do a 180 in your perspective and how you kind of treat
Right?
people.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge 180, right? Is probably the right way to describe it. I think that was the best part because again, the program, our mission's super simple, right? The Army's mission for JROTC, there's Navy JROTC, Air Force JROTC, Army JROTC. The
Yeah,
Army's mission is really just to motivate young people to become better citizens. That's it, simple and pure. And the way we do that is, in fact, part of our curriculum, instilling our values. So there is, just as there is the Airman Creed, there's actually a Cadet Creed, is what there is, Army Cadet Creed that
yeah,
we kind of put together, and then the Army values is something else that we get to kind of codify and connect all of them with. And so there's things that I have to draw from my experiences to make points and make sure they stick with the
yeah,
students. So from that aspect, I could still pull things out of my kit bag, you know what I mean, that have
yeah,
I've had from the military, but for the most part, just kind of like what I mentioned. No, it is in fact different. It's again, it's just like how you prepare for an interview or
yeah,
go to your next duty assignment. You get the intel, right? You start trolling, what what sites they have on social media. You pick
yeah,
up exactly what's current, what's going on there, so you can jump in and have a conversation about what's relevant, or what's the now, what's the
yeah,
tea, right? Yeah, and then from there, after you make those connections, that's when people they start learning, just as much as you're trying to learn about them, they start learning more about you, and then it
yeah,
becomes very seamless, right? The connection's going to be made. It's going to happen. The common ground is really what you have to look at to have that conversation starter. And the connection, of course, was, again, why'd you join JRTC? Okay, well, this is what I'm going to get for you. This is what you can expect.
these little
And then
icebreakers. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it's still something that as everybody should always do, continuously look to be better, continuous improvement. Yeah, that's still something that I always try to make sure that I stay big on communication. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's great. And I wanted to kind of, I don't know how much time you have, but I just wanted to get into a few other things. Uh, I wanted to kind of get into leadership, right? Because you're kind of like in the
Yep.
pinnacle of leadership, and I've dealt with several types of leaders, right? All types of different types of people, and you obviously you understand that, and being now in the civilian world. When I was doing I mean, I'm at a different company right now, but before that, I was at this other company, those of you who know, but for the most part, I don't really put it out there. But the company, the leadership was almost non-existent or terrible, right? And it's like this guy needs to go through some like leadership school or something like that, because it's like there's no appreciation for your team. Like the best leaders that I've dealt with were the ones, because in most cases, right, unless you have like a fresh out of tech school or training, like airman or soldier who just came in, it's like most people know who's like the leader in like the thing, right? And so like it's kind of like, I don't know, in my perspective, it's unspoken. The best leaders keep it, it's almost like unspoken that everybody knows, but they know. And then so like I try to give a good example is like the um my I had a commander when I was stationed on Guam, and he'd walk into a room and like we all knew like this is him. Like he's the comptroller and all this stuff, and he's here. And before we could even get a chance to stand up, he'd just say like, "No, don't." It's like he would like, and like we were always like at him, like trying to be, play our part and be on our tip top shape. But he'd come in and he'd praise all of us, and like, thanks for keeping me out of jail, all these things, right? And like, but like he obviously, and he would like say, "Oh, I don't do that much," or stuff like that, right? It's like he's playing coy and humble, but it's like it's the stuff like that where it's like it's not necessary, but you appreciate it as a person who works under him, and you understand that like he does just as much, if not more, than what we're doing, but he's showing praise for the people that are working under him. And other things too, right? There was a lot of events where like we were a lot that was a lot of the word morale gets tossed around a lot, but really it's like the morale. He was able to keep the morale up in both flights, both shops. But at this place, right, and I've had several different experiences that are kind of related. That's just kind of when I pulled out of my head. But in this instance, it was like the total opposite, right? It was like, no, 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 you all work for me, and like this is what this is, right? And it's like he basically pulled out his. I don't know if you keep up with Jocko Willink, but like when he talks
Oh yeah.
about, yeah, and he talks about when you start pulling all of your tools out of your leadership belt, and it's like you want to keep those tools in your belt as long as possible and only pull them as scarce resources, right? And so like what he means is like pulling that, like, no, 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 like you do this, and like being that person, because you don't realize, like, I have like clear perspective from being like, and you do too, being like junior enlisted. It's like you see the negative impact that it does when you act like that. It makes people not want to, like, they're gonna do it, but they're not gonna do it to the best capability that they could, because now they just don't like you.
Yes.
And it's like,
No. Right.
and some people think like, no, even if you don't like me, you're still gonna do it. Like, yeah, I'll do it, but you're always gonna have a problem with me if whatever the case may be, right? And I saw this at this place. Not to go too deep into that, but like, what is your experience as far as like your leadership style? Has it changed? Experiences, thoughts?
No, that's good. So, I mean, really, when you look at that, right, everything you're describing, it's actually talked about more in the Department of Defense, more as climate and culture, right, is what it is. A
Yeah,
positive climate versus a negative one, right? A toxic climate, right? A toxic culture versus a growing or learning culture is what it comes down to. And it always starts from the top. And this is good combo, right? This is good talk. I'm glad we're chopping it up now because this applies to transition. You can't expect again. To, let me change that. You don't have to put up with bad leadership, right? Or I should say, a bad work environment. If you're in that situation, that's the best part about transitioning, because you're not locked into a contract, where it lasts forever. You can, as we were taught in the military, you can certainly report. You can actually be that change agent to go in and make things happen, to flip that, to make it better. Or you could actually just take off. That's the better part. The reality is you are now at a point now where you are in fact, you're not bonded, to a 4-year contract anymore,
yeah,
or longer, like, once you hit indefinite status. Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger freedoms that you get back. But that's so important, so important. It's funny, I'm glad you brought it up. That was another sticking point for JRTC for me. I was obviously, I did my due diligence. Brother did his backwards planning, in other words, and I got my hire in. I got pre-certified before my retirement date. So when it came time for my leave, my transition leave, what used to be terminal leave, I ended up starting to look to hire. I went to check out schools that had vacancies for instructors. And the reason why I stuck to the South Side, where I'm at now in San Antonio, they call it the economically disadvantaged area, right? That's fancy talk for poor. But
yeah. Okay.
I am there because, man, I walked in, I knew I could make a difference with the area that I was at. But
Yeah,
my senior instructor, man, I saw his vision and we just clicked. I was like, again, how you make those strong connections. You have some good wingmen, in the
yeah,
Navy, some solid sailors, right? Yeah, I found my new battle buddy. I was like, hey, you know what? I can get behind everything that you've done here and everything that you're trying to do. Let's not talk about this. Let's be about this. Let's go.
yeah.
And in other words, I wanted to work with him, in that environment, because of that. And it's cool because if you've been in any organization longer than a year and then had leadership change, right, you could see that there are in fact different leadership approaches and leadership styles, and what
Yeah,
they do, how they're, how they actually are delivered, what they, in other words, how your leaders act greatly influence, or I should say directly shape how the climate is. And so if you don't got a good work climate, you don't be there. Don't stick around. Roll out. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do that as a civilian.
No, that's a great. It's literally it's so like it sounds so cliche or it sounds like a movie, but it's like yeah, literally if the person at the top, depending on how they are, it trickles down and like you see it. It's almost like the office becomes like cloudy in a certain sense, and it's like nobody wants to be there. Everybody will put on a face. You just feel it, and it's like I've so many. This is where I go in the office, and it's popping. Everybody's like happy. There's work getting done, but like it's like a great environment. And some might say like, and you, I mean, you were in 22 years, but it's like oh, you're just being soft, right? In my day, we just kind of like took it in the chin
Yeah.
and all these things, right? And it's like, there's to a certain level that's true, right? And to a certain level, it's like, depending on whatever your point of view is on it, it's like, yeah, of course, there's probably going too far to one end in terms of like softness and whatever, because that's kind of, I joined at the end of 2016 and I started slow and we don't have to get into that, but like the slow shift of like we started doing more. Like I saw the importance of team building and doing these sessions once a month and twice a month or whatever that was kind of just like focused on morale and focused on and I see the benefit in that. But then somewhere down the line it started getting too like it started taking up too much of our time or it started being a little too much, a little too extra. I was getting in trouble for making jokes. I got in trouble a few times for cracking certain jokes that I would necessarily crack about because someone overheard me from like an office away or something. There's certain things like that that you might have not necessarily have gotten in trouble for 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. And so, what is your has your thoughts on that as far as like the balance between yeah we need a safe space working environment where everybody feels welcome and happy and leadership it's your responsibility to make sure that happens but also it's like no but to a certain extent there's a limit you know what I'm trying to I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I think that's the best part. That's a valid question, right? And so in other words, real talk, and it does start with laying out expectations up front. Unit, you basically had there was a some to a degree some level of the commander, and you had to understand what command philosophy was, what they were about. In other words, right? And then
Yeah.
you take it down to your leaders and your first line leader, right? Just no kidding. All right, so now I met all these people. All right, so this guy, you're cool, not you. You know what I mean? Yeah, but you get to understand exactly what you're dealing with, and then you get to work the expectation management from that. And that's really, again, it just goes back to knowing your audience. That big, huge lesson. In terms of communication. In order to
Yeah.
be an effective communicator, yeah, rule number one: who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Yeah, knowing your audience is number one. And then there's this thing that we've really used over the course of the past, I want to say 8 years, 5 to 8 years for sure. But emotional intelligence, yeah, super
Yeah.
important, right? So again,
EQ or whatever so it's called.
that's right. That's exactly right. No longer is IQ, important, but really EQ even more important. Again, forget just the technical expertise, but the ability to understand and know somebody else to get the best out of them, right? Or know what the worst, how a situation will bring them down to
Yeah.
their worst. And so that's super important. And that's where you integrate that, you inject that, right? Recognizing that if you say something, they're probably going to feel this, some kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. What doesn't change is, again, back to what kind of energized me, to go apply and then stay with the school that honestly pays less, and it's 40 minutes away, and I end up getting stuck in traffic almost every day heading home. It hurts my life, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's still worth it, for what I do.
There's a fulfillment
For
there.
That's right, yeah, and it's
Self-fulfillment.
understanding that I have a good, positive work environment. I have a good climate, man, with good people around me, and
Yeah.
we all have the common value. You know what I mean? We're all after the same vision is what we're after, and that's probably the most important part because if you don't have a work environment, if you don't have a company or even a section or department within a company that doesn't have a specific vision, something that or core values that pulls you all together, that's when things just kind of they get wonky, man. They go up and down and left and right. Yeah, things just get cray cray.
No, yeah. I mean, this has been like a really there's so many golden nuggets that I don't know how to like put them into words. I want to go back into the video and actually just go through it all. I mean, to we can go on for hours, but if you had let's just say, I mean, two scenarios, right?
Yep.
One, you said if Elijah, your son, came to you and said, like, I'm okay, Dad, I need advice. What's your top, I don't know, 5 to 10 things about me getting out, things that can help me out. And I guess that can translate into something that would help other people as well looking at this.
So it's kind of funny because, man, just like everybody else, I gave him the same thing. I just didn't
Yeah.
break it away, but it's all about transition prep. So plan,
Yeah.
you got a plan, and let's talk about the plan. Let's break that down. So what is it that that you have? What's our goal overall? I'm not talking about what you want to do. I'm talking about life. What's your life goal? So when do you want to retire? What does that look like? What type of
Yeah.
lifestyle do you want? All right, now we can formulate a smart goal to get there based off of that, based off of your wants. Let's find something that you need to make that happen. All right, let's pick three options to get that. There's
Yeah.
your conversation about purpose income, trading dollars for hours.
Yeah.
That's the part. And then the uh, again relationships piece. So based off of that plan that you want, hey, did you know that there's this resource, and this resource? Or you know what? If that's what you want, I got somebody that can help you, with that. I'm gonna give them a call tomorrow. Let me you can talk to this person, such and such, boom. Right? Whether
Yeah.
it was education for certification or looking to get out, he's a geospatial intelligence analyst. So for his job, what he does, what does that look like transitioning out, with the top secret clearance, blah. So relationships, right? And then the effort piece. I'm like, all right, so here's where now I get to keep him accountable. I'm like, all right, so I just need you to do this, this, and this. Make sure you have the conversation. So, hey, let's talk. Next Friday. Let's see where you're at. Or I'll shoot him a text. The following day. Hey, do you do this? All right, so you're not doing enough. Hey, so if you don't do this, you're not gonna you're not gonna transition, man. You're not gonna hit your goal that you want. So give me the effort. In other words,
The
yeah,
big E, right? As you said, the big E.
that's right, man. Give it. Give it all. Push past them limits. And then the last thing, of course, is the persistence. Just recognizing and knowing that change is inevitable.
Yeah.
And you have to get after it. You
Yeah.
may have expected to talk to somebody or get the certification done this month, but you know what? Continuing resolution happened, and now they shut down TAP, and there's no money for Skills Bridge, or I should say, they shut down Skills Bridge because the people that work there, they don't have jobs.
Yeah, nobody's getting jobs from doing it, wasn't
Yeah,
benefiting anybody.
that's right. Adjust the plan. Adjust the plan and stick to it.
No,
To
yeah.
continue. Don't give up. In other words, yeah, just keep after it.
Yeah,
But
there's a
yeah,
little
PR.
there's a sorry. What?
Oh no, I was gonna say PREP prep.
Yeah,
That's it.
PREP.
Just
I think
prep for transit.
that honestly that is good advice because I mean, what seems kind of common knowledge, what seems like everybody should probably know that they don't, and so like okay, and that's a big thing about that's what financial planning too. It's like financial planning. That's literally what we're talking
Yeah.
about. It's literally planning, but in terms of man, your the resources that you use and like what as far as like I know you have your access to your e-benefits, you have access to your Mill Connect, You still have access to your MyPay up until you're out of your data separation, and retirement. You still have
Mm-hmm.
access. You know, you DFAST, and
Correct.
so. But what resources? I mean, to kind of top off everything, did you use, and do you recommend people use that you know on top of your head?
Thank you for asking that. So, like I said, earlier, I did my journey. I wasn't going to tell a service member to do something unless I'd done it already and I believed in it, or I should say, I knew it worked. That's when I could talk about it and advocate for it. And
Yeah,
so, aside from the tap, which nobody takes advantage of, it drives me nuts.
it's
The tap
crazy. I thought that
office.
was mandatory.
Yeah, so you get the brief, but nobody ever goes back for assistance. They're there. They have so much information
Yeah,
locally and nationally, regionally, and nationally. But I can definitely attest, and I have no problem talking about two of my go-tos that I normally just push folks to. Whether you're an '06 retiring, whether you're an E9 retiring, whether you're an E4 separating, it don't matter. These two are proven to me, and more importantly, they're nationwide. So that's why I really push for them,
mm-hmm.
advocate. The first one is the USO Pathfinder program. So everybody knows USO. They all they think about 90% of the time is, oh, that's the place where I get to go grab some grub and I get to
Watch a
chill,
movie.
my flight right at the airport. But they have money that's granted to them that helps with transition specifically. So a lot of the things that I shared, I ended up learning, discovering, through through my journey with them. And then on top of that, USO Pathfinder, you can actually Google it, look it up. There's always a transition specialist within your area. They actually will they're a program that you can jump on while you're in active duty from the time you sign up to 6 months after you separate. So
Wow.
just imagine that having somebody to help guide you to do some good goal setting and give you resources to get after it, to make sure that you have everything needed, and prepared for a successful transition. But wait, there's more. What about, your family members? If you're married and, you have kids, the same thing. Your spouses can take advantage of it too. So there's that USO Pathfinder, and then man, I can't talk enough about the Wounded Warrior Project. So
Yeah, that's good.
I lost several service members, to different for different reasons. Well, really, for to terminal illnesses, during my last 3 years, and in double digits, it was rough. But Wounded Warrior Project did a lot for their families, and then discovered that they actually have a Warriors to Work program, so they
Wow.
actually help out. Well, fun fact too, I much like I think everybody else, right? Ignorance is not knowing what you don't know. I was
Yeah.
under the impression that they only take care of wounded warriors, right? Folks that are injured or ill. No, if
Yeah.
you're in active duty, you can sign up for WWP. So I always
Wow.
try to encourage. Yeah, right. Facts. I always try to encourage everybody to sign up with WWP before you separate, just so you can jump in and get those benefits.
Yeah.
They have a cool warrior. It's called Warriors to Work program that they
Mm-hmm.
basically do the kind of they kind of mirror what TAP does, which is essentially the same that USO Pathfinder does,
Mm-hmm.
and it's key. You're knocking out. If you look at what I kind of described, what my tactics are. When you look at prep, they help you with the planning. They are the relationships, right? They are the
Mm-hmm.
resources. Yeah, they will call back and see how you're doing to get a status to hold you accountable to make sure you're putting forth effort. Yeah, and so they're great resources again, like I said, because they're out. I like them because they're outside of the military, so you can
Oh,
for sure. Yeah,
they're
they're
private.
non-biased.
Oh,
That's right. Yeah. They're both nonprofit organizations, is what they are. Yeah, and they both extend, again to families, not just to the service members, but to spouses as well. That's big time.
yeah.
Yeah, I I love WWP because aside from just talking about careers, jumping into careers, the big part is the relationships and staying connected as a veteran. More often than not, we lose sight of the fact, man. We're just going to be different. We're citizens elite, is what we are. We went from raising our right hand, going from a citizen, civilian, to basic, BMT, knocking out years of experience as a service member, and then we get out to go back to civilian, but we're not. We're civilians with military experience, and that's invaluable. But it also makes us different to a point where we're going to have to be biased to be connected to other veterans,
Yeah.
because it's their experiences. It's a big chapter of who we are, as people, what we did. We can never forget about that. And so it's important to stay connected as veterans. And man, WWP does a great job of the different services that they provide to make that happen. There's a
Yeah.
lot of other ones that are out there, but I wanted to definitely share those two. Those are definitely my two go-tos.
No, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I know for a fact that anybody can look that up, and they'll find places, or I should say, they'll find those groups within their areas. You know what I mean? That can help them, or just reach out. It's even better to shoot them an email or sign up with them. To get that immediate connection. It's all you got to do.
No, that's great. I mean, I know this. I mean, I won't name him, but we have a client who's getting out of the military, and it's like literally what you said, like you don't know what you don't know, and some people just don't know anything. And sometimes, you're told to go through these briefings, you're told to go through TAP, and we have the capstone and all that stuff. It's like, and you're just bombarded with information and slides, and here's what you got, and here's where you can get it, and da da da, and then you're over 45 minutes to an hour later, and or a whole day later, depending on how many you have briefings packed into one day. And it's like, who in their right mind can remember all this or have the energy to like? It's like nobody. And so most people aren't going to know it's there and it's put in your face, but like you're just like you're already stressed, you're trying to get out, you're thinking about like that's going to cost me $5,000 to move all my stuff going from point A to point B, the military is only going to reimburse me this much. You're having all these thoughts in your head, you're not thinking about where's a good place to write a resume. you know
That's right.
but there's things out there, right? Like in the military one source or whatever, there's resources. I forgot what the program, I don't know if the army has it, but the air force has it too, or I forgot the website, but it's like it's CAC enabled, you have a login password, but you literally has your background, right, what you've accomplished over the last however many years you've been in, whether you've been for 20 or whatever, and it tells you everything you've accomplished, where you've been stationed on stuff, and basically gives you enough information. I don't know if you knew what the name was, but enough information about your background to put into to translate into your resume. And so
Yeah.
there's an actual thing that exists like that, but I can't remember the name of it.
There are actually a couple websites, yeah. And again,
Yeah,
USO Pathfinder, WWP, they
they
guide you
do
to
that.
those. They do.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow,
so it's
and
taking the guesswork. Relationships, man, that's the
yeah, no, that's great.
that's what it does.
And
They give you resources.
I can't tell you. I mean, I'm sure you ran into it, and sorry, we'll finish pretty soon. But I like as many as veterans or people that you've seen transition out, and they're just like, I have to put an example. The person I'm talking about, their situation, they can't find a job that's applicable to whatever they were doing. They're worried about like the pay that they're not getting, or that they're potentially getting going from their active duty job to this other job, and all these things. And I'm like, you would easily find all that information if you just looked at this stuff. It's like these websites literally can tell you, if you put in if you have your MOS or your AFSC, you put that code in, it'll tell you things like jobs that are applicable and transferable skills and all these things. And then it's like it's there. That's kind of my point.
That's right. You're
you
spot
just
on.
he's got to do the groundwork. Anyways, thank you for doing this. Okay, I know this lasted a lot longer. I actually went ahead and did the premium because I just thought you didn't deserve to do 40 minutes. You needed a lot longer. So I really appreciate the time that you took out for this. in a nutshell, anything you wanted to like leave last words? I mean, it surprised me actually, because I did start this channel a year back, and I started incrementally doing it. And now that I had more time and I knew kind of I had a vision of what I was trying to do accomplish, and we were just talking about planning, and I was like, okay, my plan is to help people. I mean, my grandfathers and uncles such
Mm-hmm.
as yourself and everybody. I mean, the family is just one big melting pot of veterans and military people. And so I was like, okay, I think that's just where I'm gonna go. It's like I'm gonna do what I know, which is finance, but also resources kind of falls into the same thing, planning, financial planning, and help people that were in my shoes and your shoes, whoever's shoes, and connect and build that network. So that's kind of been the goal. And so for you, what I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people. Surprisingly, it's awesome when I get a message from somebody saying like, I actually watched your video, that was cool. Or clients that I talk to who are veterans who I really talk to, I lead them to these videos and I say like, look, here's a video I did on that, and then here's some information on that. And actually they actually go in and they watch the videos, and it's great. And so I'm happy to actually provide some value, and as a resource, um for anybody, even if you're not even in the military and you want to join, or maybe this doesn't apply to you, but you get some good information out of it. I mean, that's cool too. But anyways, I can ramble too much, and I'm sorry about that. So for like last, I guess in a nutshell, if you want to maybe more than a nutshell, advice or talking points that you want to hit on before we end the video.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to harp on what almost everybody has said thus far, right up until this interview. Just remember, you're not alone. Just I'd ask you to again just keep it easy, man. Keep it easy. Prep, and then one thing I do want to make sure that I throw out there is don't, man, don't eat the humble pie. Put your put your pride away, and make sure that you actually go and get with the VA. You're regardless of how long you served, you earn those benefits that are there, and just recognize that you may think that there's nothing wrong with you now. Man, you would be surprised on how something as simple as a rolled ankle or a tweaked knee, your first year in service,
Or
what
even
that
mental
means,
issues,
or
right?
yeah, or most importantly, mental issues. As we've changed as society, man, we've been asked to do a lot of crazy things. You know what I mean? Through some drastic and radical change. So yeah, mental issues is a big one. Yeah, whether it's again physical or invisible, there's some wounds, there's some illnesses, and it not yeah, they probably started in the military and they only get worse. So
Yeah.
before you transition out, make sure you get that set as well. Working looking to get a disability, that's something that you should never take for granted. More importantly, just recognize that you've earned it. Now, you may not want it for you, but I'm telling you, not now, but later on down the line, don't let it be something that you're going to try and prove after the fact that you're out of the military. Make sure you get that stuff documented and actually apply for that stuff before you get out while you're in the military.
Yeah.
And man, again, I can't thank you enough for having me. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a pleasure chopping up
No,
with you. It was good catching it up.
no, it's my honor to kind of, I never really, I know in the past I've talked to you about some advice that I needed from in certain instances, especially when you came to visit a lot. I mean, I did pick your brain and such, but like to pick your brain in this kind of, as a, previous junior enlisted to a senior enlisted, kind of, interaction. I mean, this was really valuable, I think. In my eyes, at least, there's a lot of golden nuggets that you left and you dropped a lot of information. It's obvious that you are very passionate about the service, and you're very passionate. You have invested your time, literally blood, sweat, and tears in like the people, and you continue to do that. And so that's honorable, and I appreciate your time doing this. And yeah, I can go on and on, but we'll cut it there. So thanks again. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video, or end the call, but like the video will continue going on.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank,